So here we are. And I really want to talk about education, if that's okay. Can anybody remember being of this sort of age? Can you remember? Has anybody got kids? Say whoop if you've got kids. Say whoop if you were a kid. Okay, let's start again. Say whoop if you've got kids. Say whoop if you were a kid. Hey, so let's have a look at this. And just for interest, that was this girl's father giving her all the rejection letters he got from different jobs he'd applied for. Yes! Wouldn't that be a great thing? So, so how do we help her identify what she's really good at? I mean, really good at. And how do we get that? Let me just pose a hypothesis. I'm guessing in this room, most of us are doing stuff in the daytime, like jobs, like going to college, stuff like that. Am I right? Yeah, and I'm guessing in the average day, some of you go home saying, that day was a bit shitty. But then other days you think, wow, this was fantastic. I've done something today which really makes it worthwhile. Does anybody find up some of those things? So wouldn't it be great if we could just get rid of the shitty stuff and do more of the good stuff? So I was sort of looking and trying to see, well, how did we start off with this whole process of education? And I went all the way back to Mount Rushmore. Well, I didn't go to Mount Rushmore. I did go to Mount Rushmore. And the second guy on the left is Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson wrote some notes right the way back in 1767 on the state of Virginia. And he said, what we need to do is we need to give free education for people in the state of Virginia. And actually that got enshrined into the United States Constitution. And we've sort of said that Thomas Jefferson's a guy who brought free education to everybody. What a fantastic thing. But if you actually have a look at how he analyzed it, he said that what we need to do is we need to have in each place a school for people to be able to go to. And then what we'll do is we will visit those schools. We'll have a visitor who goes to those schools, and he will select the boy or girl of best genius. And the boy or girl of best genius will be sent forward to one of the grammar schools where they can be educated in Greek, Latin, geography, and stuff like that. And then we'll visit those, and we'll take the very best ones and effectively send them to university. And in this way, what we will do is we will rake the genius from the rubbish. And we will be able to separate the learned from the laboring classes. And I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, we're still doing that today. I put it to you that we don't know how to identify talent at schools early enough. And this is happening all around the world. So if we just look at some images of schools, here's a picture of a school taken in 1875. This is a primary school, all the way in 1875. Here's a school for intermediate kids. That one was taken in 1904. Here's another one for kids who are slightly older than that, and this was taken in 1932. Here's another image of a school for intermediate-age kids. This was taken in 1947. Here's another one which was taken in 1965. Here's another one in a school in our country which was taken in 2010. And here's a university, and that was taken this year. I'm not convinced that this is a way in which we can bring up young people to make full use of the world which we've had described in this room today, with robotic interventions in surgery, with people who are looking at logistics around the world. I just don't know if we can get taught that by rote and by listening to people. We might need to experience that ourselves. And that takes us into two things: the history of us as individuals and what our destiny is. Everybody in this room's got a destiny. When you leave this seat, it's your decision as to what to do next. It's your decision. And some of you have got history. Some of you will be thinking, oh, I'm no good at maths, I'm no good at drama, I'm no good at all sorts of things. But we might be able to separate that history, which got you just sitting in this room, from what your destiny is. And that becomes fantastic. But we have to fight against learned experiences. So let me ask a question. Which of those circles in the center is larger? The one on the left or the one on the right? Hey, I tell you what, just go whoop if you think it's the one on the left. Okay? Go whoop if you think it's on the one on the right. Go whoop if you think they're the same size. No, go whoop if you think they're the same size. Yeah, well, you're all wrong. You see, the reason for this is that we stop using our minds. Some of you must have thought, that idiot, he's showing one of those things, I know this one. Ha ha. Okay, so let me ask it again. Which one is bigger? Who thinks the one on the left? Go whoop if you think it's the one on the left. Go whoop if you think it's the one on the right. Go whoop if you think they're the same size. Yeah, not so sure now, are you? And actually, most of you are wrong because they are the same size. And this is what I mean by these learned experiences, because in reality, it's not just what you know these days, is it? It's not just what you know. It's also who you know. And more importantly, it's how you know. Because if each of you know 5,000 people, and each of those 5,000 people thinks you're an idiot, it's better not to know anybody. So, for example, this kid will always be known as the boy who was creative enough to stick his head through the plastic hole in the plastic seat. And you know that's going to follow him around forever. But equally well, sometimes you will see people doing things which you say, this is going to be doomed to failure. And when do you tell them? And this is the bit which we have. And I think that's a difference between leadership and managementship. I think we're jolly good at managing, we're getting very good at it, but we're not so good at leadership, because leadership involves taking decisions and doing things. We've heard it over and over again for the first time. And that makes the difficulty of how do I measure success? How do I measure success? And some managers measure success by simply not making a mistake, and I don't make a mistake basically by doing nothing. Has anyone ever met anybody who's very busy doing nothing? So where can we go from there? Well, we can have a look at creativity. We talk about it a lot. Interestingly, if we talk to people who've had children and you say, what do you want your child to be? They tend to use the words, I want him to be happy. Actually, he's more than happy. I want them to be really content with where they can be in life. I want them to be considerate, and I want them to be kind, and I want them to be resourceful, and I want them to be inquisitive, you know, because if they're all those things, they will definitely be healthy. But above all these days, I want people to have hope. Has anyone ever found there are some kids and they don't have hope? My goodness, why is that? This is a fantastic world. Just go outside and have a look at those robotics. Just listen to what we've been talking about today. So how can we make that work? How can we put that all together? Well, if we just have a look at education, of taking somebody from being a little acorn into an oak tree, and if you analyze it and you look at a tree, you will find there's as much going on underneath as above. So let's look at what we do in education, formal education. We tend to teach maths and history and science, and we teach geography and languages and economics and all this sort of stuff. And underneath, the stuff which we hope people will get. Actually, when you do well, you get loads of certificates. Have you noticed that? And you can get the really, really, really nice tree full of fabulous fruit all over it. Underneath, which is the stuff which we don't test, is this stuff about at ease and considerate and kind and inquisitive and healthy and hopeful. I've never yet found somebody saying, do you know, I'm really worried about that child. They've got fantastic at maths, but they're not very inquisitive. They're not very creative. How do you do an exam on creativity? Here's a blank sheet of paper, 3 hours, do something special, make us amazed. Really difficult, isn't it? I mean, seriously difficult. Be creative. In what way do you want me to be creative? And actually, that's another interesting thing. Does anybody here remember being so young that if you were on stage right now, you'd be going, hey, hello. Does anybody remember being at that age? And if somebody said, don't do that, what did it mean? Don't put your hand in the fire. Yeah! So maybe we need some more of that going around. Because if we don't have those stuff underneath, which we don't see and we don't test, actually what we have is we have the sort of tree which I buy when I go to a garden shop and I plant it. It looks great and it dies. Because the thing I should buy is the scrawny one. You know, the one which looks like a stick with decent roots. So where does school and education fit into all of this stuff? Well, there are some fantastic things. First of all, do we know how good our kids are? Do we really stretch and test to see actually how good are they? I love going into little schools with primary schools and giving kids iPhones or iPod touches and saying, just go make a movie. Just go see. Just go see. The teachers don't know how to do this. Just go around and see what happens. And then they find that they need a bit of tuition, so they go to university, get taught about it. They just spend half a day. Fabulous sort of stuff. And they see how does the equipment work. And then what they do is they go off and make a movie and show it at the local cinema. Just imagine being 8 years old and your movie has been shown at a cinema. What does that do for you? But just imagine that you've got 30 kids and they've made 60 hours of movies and they have to edit it down to 20 minutes. Then you really get resourceful and kind and negotiating skills and teamwork and all the stuff which we want people to have. And the amazing thing is, actually, this is quite good. This is an edit I did of their movie.
My name's Anton, and my name's going to answer some questions about Bishop's Stortford.
Okay, so it's about mindsets in some respects. You know, do we realize that people are able to do this? Actually, how do we know how capable we are? Does anybody know people who are great at school and they're a bit of an idiot? Does anybody know professors who know everything except they're going to get ripped off when they go to a shop? So let's see how we can break some of this stuff, because mindsets are really powerful. And if you want to see a mindset at work, get on an escalator which is off. And you'll see some people who walk up to it and say, oh shit, it's off. How do I get on this? Have you ever seen people do it? And they go, "Ugh," and then they walk down, and at the end they go, oh shit, it's off. How do I get off this thing? Equally well, in school we get used to mindsets. Find X. Well, here it is. And do you think you get marked up or down for this at school? Here's another one. If anybody here's a mathematician, expand a plus b to the n. So if you know, we've got it's a Pascal's triangle running underneath, isn't it? So if n is 2, it's a squared plus b squared plus 2ab. If n is 3, it's a cubed plus 2, a 1, 3, 4, whatever it is. So this kid just expanded it. I can keep going if you like. Actually, I can go a long way. In fact, there's no end except for the length of paper. So where can we go with all of this sort of stuff? And what becomes interesting is what if? And what if? Just what if we ask kids how to do things? How can we get people to want to wear seatbelts? Have you ever, just think about how we would do it. We'd probably have car crashes, we'd have people throwing through windscreens and all the rest of it. Do you have that sort of thing? You know, because that's conventional. But what if? But what if? So what if we can break from convention? Just what if? What if we can say that my time at school should be a deeply emotional experience where I'm filled with joy and filled with love and filled with laughter and filled with rapture? And then maybe I can start separating the history which has taken me to where I am from destiny. And then we can ask what we want in society. Do we want people to fulfill a job, or do we want people to play a role? Are we looking to people to get employed, or do we want them to be an income generator? Because employment requires two things, doesn't it? It requires an employee and an employer. So maybe it's about how do I make my way. And if you look at the construct which we currently use across society, We say we're going to take the young people away from society, we're going to separate them, put them in a school, we're going to have blocks of time in semesters, which is basically around an agricultural model. We're going to divide people up based on when they were born, just in batches. We're going to subdivide into small groups. We're going to give them people who are allocated to them, who go to training, they don't have anything. We're going to put them in a separate cubicle called a classroom. We're going to subdivide into little tiny small time units of 40 minutes or so. We're going to have a set of attainment tests on set objectives. We're going to allocate grades, and then we're going to put them back into society to go and make it better. You might argue that's completely daft. So we're running a strange model across the world. Now, wouldn't it be great if when you phone up a school, the kids answer the phone? Well, it's a school, for heaven's sake. That's how they'll start learning this sort of stuff. Wouldn't it be great if all the timekeeping was done by kids? Wouldn't it be fantastic if the catering was done by kids for kids? Wouldn't it be even better if the finances were done by kids? And they start looking at where they're spending the money. Wouldn't it be fabulous if they start looking at the technology in the school? And wouldn't it be great if they just get out and have discussions from time to time? And all this is happening, ladies and gentlemen, in really great schools. The trouble is teachers need permission to do this. And that's what becomes really, really seriously powerful. Let's start understanding what having a social environment for dining's like, with flowers and people on round tables. And wouldn't it be great if I can just find myself in a little igloo which I can make out of milk bottles, for heaven's sake, and just go in there? And wouldn't it be lovely if I can just start doing things to discover what am I capable of and how do I really, really start doing things? And then we can work out how to measure success. And then we can say, how should we measure success? And then we can start observing things, like when do we measure it? When do we measure when she's going to be the rubbish or she's going to be the genius? And how do we stop her getting just history in this ever-changing world? And if you just want to look at what changes have happened in the world, we've had GPS down to MP3, all the way down into migrations across Europe. So we can then look at learning. Does anybody remember being like that at school? It doesn't have to be like that, does it? It just doesn't have to be like that. Just look at the questions. I'm not very good at writing because I don't join up lines. I don't do so well at catching my rabbits or guinea pig because they are fast at running. I cannot swim very well because I cannot hold my breath easily enough or long enough. I'm not very good at putting wallpaper up on the walls. And then you start getting good at it. So maybe we just need to get loose a little bit in what we're asking our schools to do and what we're asking our kids to do, but keeping tight on some of the things which we're asking society to do. And then we can start seeing what kids are capable of when they actually put a performance together and they run the management and they run the marketing and they run the finance and they do the set design. And all these kids, all of these are under 11 years old. And what becomes fantastic is when you let them loose and you see actually what are they capable of. Wouldn't that be a great place? Well, these places are happening, but people like us have to help them happen it. And look at what kids then say about what they're getting from their school. My best learning was when I acted in front of hundreds of people in a show for my drama class. The best bit was the end, when I sang a solo on my own. It's taught me lots of different things, but most of all made me feel more confident on stage and just generally great at the fact I was actually on stage performing. Ladies and gentlemen, that might be how we get fabulous people to do great things when they leave school and go on, whether they're 11 or 12 or 16 or 18. And that becomes wonderful, because then we can have a look at experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, which of the circles in the center is the larger? Who thinks it's the one on the left? Who thinks it's the one on the right? Who thinks they're the same size? Okay, now you've got to whoop. Whoop if you think it's on the left. Whoop if you think it's on the right. Whoop if you think they're the same. You don't learn, do you? So here we go. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We need to really look at things. I mean, seriously look. Test of sexuality. You might see two amorous lovers, or you might see dolphins. Who see amorous lovers? Whoop if you see amorous lovers. Whoop if you see dolphins. Yeah, there's the dolphins. So there's one, for example. And you'll find there are lots and lots and lots of others around. How many legs does the elephant have, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. I just can't do this. I'm just at TEDx. So we have to think again. And what becomes fantastic if students chose teachers, if we built on strengths? What becomes even better is if we stop doing things like this, where somebody's written something up on a board and the kids are going into the class to copy it down into their book. Does anybody remember doing that sort of stuff? What a waste of time. What a terrible waste of time. So where does that take us? Let's have one of those days when you go, wow, what a wonderful day at school. Wouldn't it be fantastic if people can leave their mark? Wouldn't it be great if we can say, who am I and what am I genuinely great at? Genuinely great at. And then us here when we leave, let's do the right thing, which might not be the done thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is called leadership. And when you do that, it's going to be a strange journey. And you might think, oh my goodness, I've passed the point of no return. But opportunity, some people say, is nowhere. Let's put a space bar in it. Doesn't that become great? So let's dare to dream. All of us. More importantly, let's dare to act. And actually, let's really dare to act. Thank you very much.